As always, it's a joy to be with you today, whether this is your first time or you've been watching these videos for quite some time. Today, I'm going to talk to you about something that is really close to home, really difficult, really needed, and at some level can be controversial. Because if we don't talk about this, I truly believe the relationship can stay stuck for quite some time. I know for sure the unfaithful spouse will stay stuck for an enormous amount of time, which means at some level the betrayed will remain stuck. The topic is forgiving yourself. Now, at some level you may say, how is that controversial? Well, it can be controversial because for some betrayeds they may think, look, I don't have time for you to work out this forgiving yourself stuff. Like, you should be focused on me forgiving you. And it can get a little bit dicey. But here's the problem. If the unfaithful doesn't learn how to forgive themselves, they stay stuck in what we call a shame spiral. And when you're stuck in shame, you keep doing shameful things because you are caught up in your own shame, your own self-hatred. And so you think, I can't stop. I'm just such a terrible person anyway. I might as well do this stuff. Why should I fight it? Why should I stop doing it? I'm such a train wreck anyway. And so they get into a shame spiral and they keep doing shameful things. And while it is vital that the unfaithful should be pursuing the betrayed to pursue and seek forgiveness, if they don't forgive themselves, I will tell you that relapse is inevitable because they'll stay stuck in this shame spiral, which causes them to keep acting out, keep doing what they're doing, and not be surprised that they're doing what they're doing because they're stuck in this vortex of self-hatred, self-shaming, resentment, and bitterness towards themselves. So if they're unhealthy, they're going to keep doing unhealthy things. How are they going to then merge with you in a healthy place of connection and oneness? Now, I will warn you, many have tried to oversimplify this of, hey, just forgive yourself and move on. Like, you made some terrible choices, it's over, get over it, be done. And it does not work that way. It never has. Especially, and if there's one X factor I can tell you about within this concept of forgiving ourselves is the concept of low self-worth or low self-esteem. For those that struggle with that, it can be incredibly challenging. In fact, it becomes a stalemate on how to forgive themselves because they struggle with this low self-esteem. Now, I will tell you, when we use that as an excuse to not do work, to not pursue repair work, to not pursue healthy repair principles, all we're doing is hurting ourselves. And actually, we're also hurting our betrayed because they need you to get healthy and you're refusing to. So when it's an excuse, I have to tell you it's diabolical. When it's not an excuse and something that maybe you learned growing up, maybe it's a family of origin issue or a childhood trauma issue that you really have struggled with, that requires a different path and it requires expert help to begin to understand why it's there, to start to heal yourself. And then as you're healing this low self-esteem and low self-worth, you can then care for yourself and eventually forgive yourself. I'm not going to get lost in that, but I will tell you, for those that really genuinely struggle with that, your path is a bit different, but still that path can, in fact, bring healing and restoration to yourself. And you actually, by all means, can be healed from that. So you may say, well, Sam, why do I really need to focus on this? In all the stuff that I'm doing, is it really necessary? Yes, and here are a few reasons why. Number one, if you ever want to bring closure to this season of your life, you're going to have to forgive yourself. If you ever want to be able to get to the next season, learning how to forgive yourself, unfaithful or betrayed, is absolutely vital. Number two is, if you want to transform this pain, and to go a step further, if you want to transcend this pain and this hurt, that either has been brought to you by the choices of another or been brought upon your own life by your own choices, you're going to have to forgive yourself, or else you'll keep transmitting your pain. Because you're angry at yourself, so you're lashing out at everybody else, and you'll just keep transmitting and transmitting to your spouse or your partner, to your kids, to anybody of significant value that gets within the inner circle of your life. You'll transmit your pain to them. Next is, if you don't heal the shame and if you don't forgive yourself, you'll still keep doing shameful things. And then you'll be incredibly ripe for relapse, or maybe even keep relapsing time and time and time again. You'll also be subjecting yourself to incredible bouts of shame and depression and discouragement because you're stuck in this cycle. And so many times I hear betrayeds wonder, why do they keep doing this? And why are they stuck in this cycle of self-hatred or self-pity? It's because, or even, why are they so angry? Well, a lot of times they're so angry because they're angry at themselves and they're projecting that anger out on you. And so they have to do this work because when they have forgiven themselves genuinely, they can be safer for you. They can be less defensive for you. They can be less angry and lashing out and erupt in anger when you have a difficult moment because they have done this work behind the scenes on their own to forgive themselves. Another reason why is if you have kids and you can't forgive yourself, you're going to model for your children some very destructive habits and pain. And you're not going to be able to parent them with grace and with kindness. You're going to model for them a completely different family structure that you do not want to model for them, I assure you. You don't want them to struggle with this one day. And you don't want them to grow up under this perfectionism, which then creates disappointment and frustration in this incredible, overwhelming pain and confusion inside of them that they don't know how to make sense out of. Finally, this sea of pain and hurt creates an emotional isolation that we just struggle with loneliness, despair, feeling like we're on the outside with no ability to enter in and connect and heal. And what happens is we become so ripe for more depression, more agony, more unnecessary pain. And the last thing any of us want is unnecessary pain. And this goes for the betrayed or the unfaithful. In our own journey, we've got to do the work to forgive ourselves in order to be more at peace with ourselves, because if we can be at peace with ourselves, we can be at peace with our significant other. Okay, so your next question might be, well, Sam, how do we do this? Number one is expert help. You cannot white knuckle this. You can't duct tape this. You can't just pray some simple prayer and think, okay, I'm good now. It doesn't work like that. You've got to begin a process with someone who's qualified to help you walk through this. Number two is group support. Now, I know some of you just are like, okay, we're done. Next video. But here's the thing. In group support, you typically can find somebody who's struggling with what you're struggling with, and you two can not hold each other accountable. I understand that, but you can support each other, and you can encourage each other, and you can be a voice of hope and support in the life of another who's going through very similar things that you're going through. And now you're not having to do it on your own, and you can avoid a significant amount of emotional and even physical isolation that you so desperately don't need or want. Next is learning how to get out of your own head. That's where hobbies come in. That's where, getting fresh air. Finding a new hobby, redoing a house like I'm doing, finding a way to escape your head, encouraging other people, doing nice things for other people, being able to spend time with other people and make it about them and help them and support them can get you out of your own head and your own crazy, chaotic thoughts that seem like they're only paralyzing you. Next, being very careful about what music you listen to, what movies, what TV, what you watch and put in front of you. It can help you or it can significantly hurt you. Even being on overdrive, constantly trying to read stuff on Instagram and trying to dive into all of this stuff, sometimes it just becomes this overwhelming machine that triggers you, and you just get triggered nonstop, and you wonder, how do I make this stop? Change what you're feeding yourself so that you can experience more peace and actually start to do some work to help you forgive yourself for the choices that you've made that have created the chaos. The last thing that you need is more chaos, and even doing good things with this crazy approach can be chaotic and highly triggering. For those of you that come from faith, good old-fashioned prayer, reading the Bible, starting to see yourself as God sees you, starting to understand the mercy that comes from the Lord is absolutely vital. For those that don't come from faith, being able to be compassionate upon yourself, being able to start a journey of self-compassion, beginning to understand, man, how do I forgive? Well, I can no longer hold this against me. Just like I forgive someone else, I can use those tools to forgive myself. I can no longer hold it against myself. I can no longer keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. I can choose to no longer remind myself of my failures. I can begin to look forward. The goal immediately is not this, oh, I'm so happy with myself. I'm so joyful. I just love myself. The goal can be a little bit more like indifference, where you think, it was awful. I've made some terrible choices. That's better than hatred and self-pity and self-loathing. And maybe you start to move through indifference and start to say, man, I can accept myself for who I am. I can give myself grace and mercy and understand maybe I was working really hard. Maybe I was trying super hard, but I just wasn't healthy internally. And now I have a chance to get healthy. I don't know what's going to happen in my relationship, but I know what's going to happen in me. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to give myself mercy. I'm going to do the work I need to do to be a healthy individual. That way, everybody that comes into my life can experience the best of who I am. See, the pain and the agony of trauma can absolutely be changed and transformed into a life of peace and fulfillment. I hope that this has helped you today. I hope that you can start your own journey of self-compassion, because as you forgive yourself, you can experience so much peace, so much joy, and you can begin to experience transformation to the level that you may not have ever experienced before. If I can help in any way, feel free to reach out.